It is January 19th, 1992. The vibe inside the Knickerbocker Arena in Albany is electric, pure wrestling magic in the air. We are 59 minutes into the Rumble match, and it all comes down to two men, the Nature Boy Ric Flair and Sid Justice. You can hear the desperation in Bobby Heenan's voice on commentary, practically begging for his guy to survive. The crowd is going wild. They know they are watching history go down in real time. When Justice finally gets tossed over the top rope, betrayed by his so-called ally Hulk Hogan, Flair drops to his knees. The championship is finally his. People still call this the greatest Royal Rumble ever. And honestly, they are right. The booking was tight. The storytelling flawless. But here is the catch. What if this perfect moment was actually the first domino in a disaster that would haunt the company for 5 years? To really get how 1992 broke the Federation, you have to understand the chaos leading up to it. Truth is, Ric Flair was not even supposed to be in that ring. Just months before WCW fired him because an executive named Jim Herd thought the champ was too stubborn and cost too much money. Flair walked right into the competition that September, bringing the other company's title belt with him, sparking one of the most surreal storylines the business had ever seen. And at the Rumble, entering at number 3 and lasting the whole hour, Flair silenced every critic. He was brilliant, a total master, but he was also 42 years old. That is the root of the problem buried under the confetti. Look at the guy across the ring, Sid Justice. 6'9", 317 pounds, 31 years old. He was the future in human form. Younger, fresher, and clean of the scandals about to swallow the Federation. Flair's win felt right at the time. But what if Vince had the nerve to give it to Sid? Smash that like button if you think Vince should have bet on the new blood. The answer lies in the invisible crisis hanging over Vince McMahon in 1992. Dr. George Zahorian had just been convicted for distributing steroids, and the feds were closing in on the Federation. The cartoons, the toys, the family-friendly image Vince spent a decade building, all of it was at risk. The steroid scandal drove every decision. Vince needed to look clean. That is why technical guys like Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels got their shot. Smaller wrestlers finally getting love. But McMahon froze up. 1 foot in tomorrow, 1 foot in yesterday. This paralysis blew up on April 5th, 1992 at the Hoosier Dome. WrestleMania 8, 62,000 fans packing the place. Proof the company was still a giant, but Vince made the wrong call at every turn. Ric Flair defended the title against Randy Savage, and Savage won. A feel-good moment, sure, but Savage was 39, banged up, and honestly past his prime. Another relic of the old era. Meanwhile, Hulk Hogan fought Sid Justice in a match that should have been for the title but was not. It ended in a messy disqualification. The crowd popped. Nostalgia won, but the future took the loss. The right move was staring Vince in the face. Sid should have won the Rumble and beaten Hogan clean at WrestleMania for the belt, cementing himself as the new monster heel champion to carry the company through the transition. Or keep the Rumble ending, but turn Sid into a good guy, challenging Flair, making him the new face of the franchise to replace the aging Hogan. But McMahon just could not let go. He was hooked on Hogan and Savage. He clung to the safety of the past, even though he had lured Sid in with the promise of the championship. McMahon looked him in the eye and said his time was coming. Then he reneged. The excuse was that Sid had personal issues or was unreliable. But Hogan had issues too. So did Savage. Vince just chose the devils he knew, and Hogan left anyway. Sid walked out too, feeling betrayed. Two of the biggest stars for the future were gone in months. By summer, the cracks were showing even if the spectacle hid them. August 29th, 1992, SummerSlam at Wembley Stadium in London. We are talking about 78,000 screaming fans packing the stadium, smashing records. On the surface, it looked like business was absolutely booming. But if you peeked behind the curtain, the cracks were already starting to show. You had Bret Hart putting the Intercontinental title on the line against the British Bulldog in his own backyard. The energy was electric, the match was legendary, and it went down as one of the greatest moments in SummerSlam history. However, let's be real, your show closer was a battle for the secondary belt, not the big prize. So where was the World Championship? Believe it or not, it was shoved into the middle of the card like it didn't matter. Macho Man Randy Savage defended the gold against the Ultimate Warrior in a segment that felt like total filler. Warrior took the win by count-out, Savage kept the title, and the audience barely reacted. The real headline was, who wasn't there? Sid Justice and Hulk Hogan were gone. The two heavy hitters who should have carried the brand into the future had been mishandled and allowed to walk out the door. SummerSlam didn't succeed because of genius booking. It coasted on the venue's hype and the company's past glory. It was a grand illusion masking a disaster, a massive turnout hiding the fact that management was completely lost. Fast forward to November and the wheels were officially coming off the wagon. Survivor Series hit Ohio on November 25th and the whole event reeked of an empire in freefall. Ticket sales were tanking and the live event circuit was hemorrhaging money. By then, Bret Hart was the top champ putting on a technical masterpiece against Shawn Michaels, yet the crowd sat on their hands. Don't blame the hitman. He was a virtuoso in the ring, respected by the boys in the back and adored by the diehards. But honestly, he just couldn't ignite that same manic energy that Hulkamania did. It wasn't about skill. It was about the vibe. In 1992, the masses still craved cartoonish, larger-than-life superheroes. They wanted comic book battles, clear-cut good guys versus bad guys, simple and loud. Bret was ahead of his time, but the shift was premature. He had no terrifying monster to slay, no unstoppable force to make his struggle feel epic. That spot belonged to Sid Justice. He should have been the giant wall for the hero to smash through. With him out of the picture, the main event just felt insignificant. The rest of the Survivor Series lineup showed a promotion having a serious identity crisis. When a nightstick on a pole match between Big Boss Man and Nails is considered the night's peak, you know you're in deep trouble. Speaking of Nails, he vanished soon after reportedly assaulting the boss backstage over a paycheck dispute. Total chaos. Yokozuna crushed Virgil to start his climb as the next big threat, but his push came too late to save the ratings. The Undertaker buried Kamala in a coffin, continuing his rise, but he wasn't quite ready to put the whole brand on his back yet. Even legends like Savage and Mr. Perfect were wasted in a tag match against Flair and Razor Ramon instead of headlining. The roster was starving for a dominant villain and a blockbuster main event. The icons had walked out, and the new blood like Shawn and Razor were still cutting their teeth. The chairman was paralyzed, clinging to yesterday while fearing tomorrow, and the product suffered for it. The blunders of 1992 would haunt the organization for 5 long years. By 1993, the new generation era kicked off with Hart, Luger, Yoko, and Taker at the helm. These were incredible athletes busting their humps, but the box office numbers kept sliding down. Rock bottom arrived in 1994 and 95, with Big Daddy Cool holding the strap. Pay-per-view buys and attendance were atrocious. Despite stellar in-ring work between the champs, nobody was tuning in to see it. Come 1996, the competition down south had snatched up Hogan, launched the NWO, and was destroying the Federation in the ratings war. But picture a different world where Sid Justice actually took the crown at Mania. Before we dive into that fantasy booking, smash that like button if you think Sid would have made a better champ. Think about a year-long reign of terror with Bret hunting him down, building real drama until a massive payoff match at Mania 9 or 10. While that main event cooked, future icons like Shawn, Razor, and Diesel could have been groomed properly in the background. They would have had the breathing room to evolve into superstars naturally. Moving from the Hulk era to the new breed could have been seamless and logical. Instead, we got a bumpy ride with no believable villain to anchor the show. The rebrand felt like a downgrade rather than an evolution. The rival promotion pounced on every mistake, grabbed the biggest stars, and launched the Monday Night Wars while the Federation was stumbling. The tragic twist of 1992 is that they had all the pieces for success right in their hands and threw them away. Ric Flair stood ready to hand over his legacy as the ultimate icon, while Sid Justice loomed as the massive powerhouse destined to define the next chapter. You had Bret Hart, the technical master, serving as the perfect bridge champion right alongside Shawn Michaels, who was clearly a ticking time bomb of superstardom. Razor Ramon was the villain with enough charisma to make magic happen in the ring with literally anybody. Then came The Undertaker, bringing a spooky, supernatural vibe that was completely unique to the industry. The table was set with all the right pieces just begging to be put together. However, Vince McMahon simply refused to move on. He was obsessed with holding on to Hulk Hogan and just couldn't cut ties with Randy Savage. He clung desperately to the cheesy cartoon antics of yesterday, unable to face the future. Please hit that like button so we can keep uncovering these backstage secrets for you. That hesitation, that total freezing up when it mattered most, basically handicapped the Federation for 5 whole years.